know, but I just thought there was 4 or 5 speakers.
Oh, no. You are the one.
No, well, I was practicing to be like the last one.
Well, we appreciate you coming. We know you've been a little under the weather, and we're tickled to see you out tonight. I'm glad that Andrea and Mary got to come with you as well, and it's good to have good help, isn't it?
Thank you.
So we'll turn the floor over to you and let you tell us about your time in Tompkinsville and all your good memories.
I'll probably get kicked out when I read all this.
Well, Cecilia contacted me and wanted to know if I would want to talk about growing up in Tompkinsville. And I was going to be out of town. I said, but Mama loves to tell stories about growing up in Tompkinsville, so I'm sure she'd be glad to. So she's been in the hospital. She's been a little confused, and one night we did this while she was confused. So,
Really, I did pick up all the things she did and said I did.
you were living vicariously, weren't you? So, anybody in here remember Ellie Hallman? Do you? All right. He passed away in September before I was born, so it's been a long, long time. You just want me to read this? Or do you want to?
I'll go.
Oh, all right.
Okay. In 1936, October, Ellie and Mary Marshall Hallman moved from Henry County to Tompkinsville for Ellie to work at Ely Drugs. That store was located where Garrett's Florist is at this time. They lived in an upstairs apartment on Jackson Street across from the George Bushon house. Mary Marshall would recall Mrs. Clarice Bushon driving up in her little coupe and wearing her fur coats. She felt Mrs. Shawn was living the good life. In October 1938, Ann Beth was born on Columbia Avenue in the Sally Grace Evans house.
How many of you know where that is? The Sally Grace Evans house. That's where the,
Chris Summers lives.
yeah, right next door. Yeah. What's the
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell parking lot, yeah.
Now this is kind of far-fetched. In October 1938, Ann Beth was born on Columbia Avenue at the Sally Grace Carter house. Across the street from that house and another house lived a little boy named Carol Moore. This is a story from his daddy. And his daddy, Jay Moore, would tell this story that he took Carol over to visit the new baby, but really at that time, that just made for a good story. The little boy and the baby would eventually marry. The Hallman's friends were Terry Richardson, Helen and Jordan White, Alma and King Williams, John Black and Lenore Hollingsworth. Pharmacy jobs were very competitive at that time. And so after the Hallmans left Tompkinsville, they moved to Cadiz, Kentucky. And then on to Owen County. In 1942, Tim Hallman was born in Gratz, Kentucky, on the Owen County line. The family then moved to Henry County in Pleasurable, where Ann Beth finished 2nd grade. In 1945, the Hallmans moved to Tompkinsville, and L.E. opened his Rexall Drug at 321 North Main, where the first store had been located. The Hymans moved then into a stone house on 4th Street that is still standing next to the old Tompkinsville High School. Y'all know where the stone house is?
That first stone house.
First stone house. Miss May Taylor was Ann Beth's first teacher after we moved to Tompkinsville. And Eva Thompson was 4th grade teacher. And Alice Patterson was her 5th grade. Alice Patterson was her 6th grade teacher, and Aileen Burks was her 5th grade teacher, and Jean Carter was her 7th grade teacher. Miss Patterson struggled with these feisty young ladies. She would often quote a little poem how little girls should play with dolls, and boys and girls definitely didn't make her happy.
The dance, I
The
think.
dance.
Yeah, boys and girls didn't make her happy.
Ann Beth's closest friends were Mary Faith Ellis, Carolyn Palmore, and Barbara Ray McClendon. They rode their bicycles all over Tompkinsville and went wherever they wanted to. Mr. Justice Ellis was the county extension agent, and he was very involved at 4-H. He took the girls 4-H camp once and also took them fox hunting. And Beth learned to cook and sew in 4-H and always known to have these talents. The Tim Hymans attended the Methodist Church, and her friends of her.
The Howlands attended the Methodist Church.
And she and her friends went to the local Bible schools and revivals at the Baptist Church. And Beth took piano lessons from Sarah Mars, but it didn't catch very well.
I thought you were gonna say that you taught Andrea how.
I think you added that part in.
The girls would go roller skating 3 or 4 times a week. On Saturday and Sunday afternoons, they would attend the Strand Theater, and sometimes their parents would go with them. They also attended the Vets Theater. Y'all remember the Vets Theater?
No, where's that?
Where was it?
Where?
It's the city maintenance, no, I take it back, it's where Safeway Tire was, it got
Yeah.
tore down, yeah.
Where was the Strand movie theater?
Where it always was.
You know the wall next to the barber
Oh,
shop?
it burned down.
And
Next to
there,
Brooks.
York's Barber Shop. I've been told that wall was part
Where's
of
the
it, but I don't know
skating
that for a fact.
The skating rink was Bruton's.
Yeah.
Bruton put their store in that skating rink, and that's where their store was. The Hymans attended church at the Methodist Church, and she and her friends went to all the local Bible schools and revival services. Girls would go skating 3 or 4 times a week, and on Saturday they would go to the theater, which I've already told you. As an 8th grader, Ann Beth started dating Carol Moore.
Not very good.
They double dated with Mary Faith and Bobby Jackson. They went out without their parents' approval, and sometimes they were known to sneak out.
She told me every bit of this, I didn't make it up.
They went to the movies and rode around, and they ate at the Cozy Inn and went to Dale Hall swimming.
I didn't put down everything you said, John.
Thank goodness.
Carol had graduated from high school and had joined the National Guard. In March of 1954, they drove across the line to Jeffersonville, Indiana, and got married. She did live out of her marriage. They came home and went to their own homes. About a week later, they finally told their parents what they'd done. And so they stayed at both houses after that. That summer, Carol went to Camp Shanty, Arkansas for boot camp. Ruth and Jay took Beth out and took her out to stay, and her mother went to get her later. After boot camp, he was sent to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Beth spent her first semester of junior high school in Oklahoma. Or
Did I put Arkansas?
you put Arkansas.
sorry.
Really, it was Oklahoma.
So you were how old there in bed?
14, 15, 15.
Are you telling them right now?
Yeah, 15.
You keep reading, you're making us all look good.
After a week or two, she received a letter saying that her daddy said that she could stay and return home at Christmas. She didn't have her driver's license, so she caught a bus every day and went to school in Oklahoma. She did come home at Christmas, and they stayed at both places. And Ruth and Jay had built the house at that time, and they owned the house.
You
next
missed
door.
something here that's important. She received a letter from her mother saying that her daddy said she needed to come home for school. But when it was obvious that Carol was going to have to go to Germany, she received another letter saying that her daddy said she could stay and return home at Christmas. She didn't have her driver's license, so she caught the bus every day and went to school in Oklahoma. Sorry, I put Arkansas there.
Carol's great aunt Nancy Cook came home from California. She had retired at this time. Carson and Effie had built a garage or a building behind their house, and they made an apartment for Nancy out of it and fixed it up. And I spent lots of time with Nancy during the time Carol was gone.
Okay. You did come home at Christmas, and you spent some nights with each set of parents. Ruth and Jay had built the stone house on the corner of Columbia and Main, where someone we know lives in now, in 1950. And they owned the house that Tommy and Bonnie McClellan live in today, and that's where Mom and Daddy lived, was in the house Tommy and Bonnie live in. Ann Beth and the Moores started fixing up the house, and Carol and Ann Beth would later move into it. All right, and then the Nancy story after that. All right.
Ann Beth finished her junior year and was often bored because the school in Arkansas was ahead of what they were studying in Tompkinsville. Carol came home at Christmas of 1955, and and Beth graduated in May of 1956.
Andrea Elliott was born in December of 56. Oh, Lester Elliott died in October of 56. Andrea Elliott, I want to get the names in there, was born in December of 56. Mark was born in May of 58. Mary Marshall Hyman died in July of 63. And Mary Marshall Moore was born in September of 63.
Upon their mother's death, my 13-year-old brother, Jim, came to live in our home. He was just like one of our own. He graduated from THS in 1968 and went to Kentucky to WKU for 2 years. In September of 1970, he was injured in a swimming accident and passed away in 2 weeks. Our Cook relatives are buried in the Old Soldier Cemetery, and the Moore, McAlpin, and Hyman relatives are buried at Oak Hill. Jay traded some land he owned to the Tompkinsville Stockyard for 24 plots on the hill right off of the road at Oak Hill. Ann Beth worked at many jobs in her life. She worked in the office and clerked at the Tompkinsville Livestock Market. She made and sold desserts and worked at the soda fountain at Alma Drug. And after passing the test for being a postal employee, she worked with Cass Chapel and Swan and at the post office.
Beth's Hope, wasn't it?
Beth's Hope, yeah. And Cass Chapel renamed her Bebo. And called her that every time he saw her. She capitalized on her stockyard experience and worked several jobs at stock sales all around the region. The Gamavia Livestock Market was her Saturday job for many, many years. Bookkeeping was her ultimate career job, starting with Clyde Anderson's office and Dr. Downing's building. The next year, the business moved to the Susie Leslie building, and she worked there for Hubert Gregory and John Taylor and Freddie Paulson, among others. And she and John later bought the Leslie building and owned it to 2023. She retired from bookkeeping in 2017. Carol retired from the deposit bank, and they were, as it was known, then known as South Central Bank. He said to have used the computer.
He said having to use the computer.
Helped him decide it was time to retire. He passed away in June of 2004 after they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in March. In 1963, Ann Beth and Carol built a new home on Crawford Street, and they raised their family there. In 1973, they purchased the cookhouse, and Ann Beth started doing things that she thought about doing if she ever owned the house. All the doors and door frames were removed, and she stripped and stained them herself. Some walls were removed and some entrances were moved. Sadly, he moved away in January of 2000.
You skipped something here. Okay. Some walls were removed and some entrances were covered up. She made the home hers. In 2017, the garage was renovated for Mark to live. Sadly, he passed away in January of 2018 and didn't get to live there. It is now the Carriage House, a short-term vacation rental.
Tompkinsville has been home for Ann Beth, even though her parents were imports. And working in her many jobs, she'd always known everybody where they lived and who their parents were. Talking with Miss Susie Leslie for 20 years was a treasure trove of information for her in itself. She's grateful for her family, her church family, and her lifetime of friends in Tompkinsville.
We still have a page here, I hope we didn't speak. No, that's the first page. This is written in third person because I didn't know that Mama was gonna read it or say it, so, but it's her story. She told me all that. I left out a few things.
Volume 2.
Yeah.
Volume 2.
Yeah. But she's had an interesting life. We appreciate you all inviting us to come.
One thing that she left out was in 2000, some friends from Louisville and I went to Europe, and we made about 14 trips and bought furniture and carried it back in a
Secret, right?
in a
Cargo.
crate, I guess is what you'd call it. And we unloaded it and got them ready and had a sale. And so we had, I believe, 5 of those sales.
In Louisville.
Huh?
In Louisville.
In Louisville,
Yeah.
not in Tompkinsville.
But some of it made its way back to Tompkinsville.
Yeah.
So,
That was something Andrea left out.
That
No.
wasn't too bad.
We appreciate
So,
it.
I guess I was a pretty busy little girl.
I like to make it on that we were a busy lady. You and Billy Sue.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, and Beth, I want to personally thank you and tell you how much I've always admired you. I can barely remember, I think, when you were working, or I know the accounting officer in Dr. Downing's
Yeah.
building. And then I remember going to Dr. Martin's and the Rexall drug. All through the years, I always admired how hard you worked, what a beautiful person you were inside and out. But you took me under your wing. When I got out of college, I had 3 kids and I was needing a job. And I started over here at City Hall, and then you took me under your wing. And through the years, you and I know how many times I've had to call you and ask you questions. You've always been so helpful and so kind to me. I really thank you, and I know that you've inspired a lot of women to do their very best in life. And I appreciate everything you've done for Tompkinsville, and especially for me.
Thank you, dear.
I got one too. I know how much you love Carol. Did he get deployed to Korea?
No, he got to Germany. He got deployed to Germany. But he was in the Korean War.
Right, yeah, I knew it was in that area. I didn't know if
Yeah.
he was.
We were hoping you would give us the, tuna fish recipe.
I would give it to you if I could remember it.
Anytime I post a picture of, there's a picture, I guess it come out of a yearbook, and it shows the snack bar or whatever there in it. There's probably 25 of the comments. I wish I had that recipe.
We appreciate you coming, Miss Ann Beth and Andrea. Appreciate y'all talking to us. Hope you know, I think you do know, but how much of an inspiration, how much I think of you. And we my time in Tompkinsville, you've always just been a picture of a true classy Southern lady. And that's just the best way I know to put it. And, I think we all know passing by Miss Ann Beth's house, how pretty it always is, and what a benefit it is just to the eye when you're driving through downtown Tompkinsville. So we appreciate you coming tonight. Y'all are welcome to stay for the meeting if you want to, or you're welcome to go. It's totally up to you.
Thank you all for all you do.